Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1241A, and today's date is March 29th, 2017, and the title of the episode is The Central Banks Begin Operation Frothy, Systematically Bringing the Economy Down. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, today we can see the market is down a little bit. Yesterday was up. It lost some of its push. And we're still seeing the chaos, and it is going to continue. Now, out in the UK, we see the UK Prime Minister, the office posted the 6-page letter that was delivered by the UK to the EU, triggering Article 50 and officially starting the 2-year Brexit process. Now, in the letter, Theresa May proposes bold and ambitious free trade agreement between the United Kingdom and says the agreement should cover important sectors, including financial services, network industries. Some of the key highlights from the letter are as follows. UK seeks to minimize disruption in Brexit talks. UK seeks technical talks on policy details ASAP. UK's May wants to avoid return to hard Irish border. UK seeks implementation periods to ease transition to Brexit. UK seeks free trade agreement that includes finance. And we can see, things are already in process. Things are moving forward, and we will have to wait and see how this whole process runs. It's going to take 2 years from this point. Now, out in Greece, we see the Syriza government. They are looking to cut pensions. They're looking to cut salaries and expenses from parliamentary deputies. Now, the proposal is for a 50% cut in pensions for former deputies and ministers, a significant reduction in monthly wages, a smaller number of policemen guarding them, as well as a ban of the use of state vehicles. Now, this is austerity. A lot of individuals out in Greece saying this should have been done a long time ago instead of bringing it on the people. And this is a very hot topic when they're talking about deputy salaries, especially in the Greek media, because it creates social tension. People are very upset. Why do we always have to sacrifice when these government officials, they're making a lot of money. They're using all these vehicles. They're getting these great pensions. They have great health care. Ooh, it sounds like the United States. Again, the government people, that should be the first place where you cut. Get rid of the pensions, get rid of the salaries, get rid of the state vehicles, use your own, whatever you have to do. That's where you cut. You don't cut the people first and keep yourself living fantastically, because then you can't feel what the people feel because you're completely separated from them. I don't know what they're talking about. I have a driver. I'm getting these great meals. I have a golf course. I have fantastic salary. There are no problems in the country. And I agree with that. Even here in the United States, when the government shuts down because they don't raise the debt ceiling, those people who are in power, in Congress, shut down the golf course, shut down the hotel expenditures, get rid of their health insurance, get rid of their pensions, one at a time instead of affecting the people. That's where they should be doing it so they realize what is going on. Now, yesterday we talked about how the conference board reported that consumer confidence is the highest that they've ever seen. Now remember, the conference board, they get grants from the government, and that's manipulated to make you think that everything is fantastic. And when we look at it, what do we see? We see what we always seen in the past, where the Gallup survey, where they survey a random group of about 3,500 adults, they found something completely different than what the government is putting out there, which we've seen this in the past. What they're saying is that the Americans' confidence in the U.S. economy tumbled along with the Dow Jones Industrial Average last week. It's still in positive territory, but it has dropped 6 points the week ending March 26th. This is the lowest weekly average since the presidential election in November. So the Gallup survey is reporting something completely different than the conference board. And again, we can see that when these numbers are taken directly from the people, we see something completely different, especially when the government has their hands in statistics like the unemployment, like GDP, like consumer confidence and all this, we always see different numbers because they're skewing it in a way to make you believe and convince you that everything is fine. And they've been doing it in the past. And they're continually doing it. They haven't stopped. Now, there's a lot of talk about minimum wage hikes where people say, yes, we have to raise the minimum wage. It will help the poor. It will be better. And the opposite argument is that if you do this, well, it doesn't make things better. And if you go back in time, you can see that they've raised the minimum wage many, many times. I mean, I remember when I was back in high school, the minimum wage was around $3.35. And now we can see that it's already, up to $11 or whatever it is, $12. And we can see that this is going to be a continuing problem unless we get rid of the central bank. We've never gone to the heart of the problem. And as you raise the minimum wage, it helps a few number of people. But again, what happens is the value of the dollar decreases and that minimum wage really doesn't help out anymore. And there is a study that was done from Dr. David McPherson of Trinity University and Dr. William Even of Miami University, pointing out the devastating consequences of minimum wage hikes. The study takes a look at the city of St. Louis and its decision to hike minimum wage rates by 43% by 2018, from $7.70 per hour to $11 per hour. McPherson figures such a hike will cost the city roughly 1,000 jobs, and as usual, will hurt the young and less skilled workers the most. He notes the minimum wage hikes often don't help the poor, at least those that are able to keep their jobs after the layoff notices are passed out, but instead flow to the teenage workers of more affluent families. Beyond the consequences to the labor market, raising the minimum wage has been criticized on the grounds that it's poorly targeted to low-income families. For instance, an early analysis found that the average family income of a beneficiary of a $12 minimum wage in Missouri exceeds $50,000 a year. Many of the employees are second or third earners in higher income households. Similarly, the Census Bureau data showed that over half, 52% of the state's poor residents don't work and wouldn't be impacted by the raise at all. And what normally happens when they raise these rates, companies look at it and say, just like McDonald's and all the rest, say, you know something, we can replace these individuals with computer terminals, with robots, because we can see right now the costs have reached a certain level where we can make a decision. Pay this individual or replace it with a robot who will never ask for an hourly wage increase. And again, the only reason you need an hourly wage increase is because the value of the dollar is continually decreasing, which makes the cost of living higher. And why is this happening? Well, it all points back to the central bank. Now, pending home sales, they have surged to the most since 2010. Now, we know what happens with pending home sales. A lot of people, put maybe a deposit on a home or write up a contract, and most of these are completely canceled. We know that existing home sales, well, those have declined. New home sales, well, those shot up. Why? Again, manipulation. And we can see right now, as we move forward, these pending home sales will start to fall apart. They'll revise the numbers. And when you really look at pending home sales year over year, we see that they've actually fallen by 2.4%. And when you look at the graph going from late 2015 all the way to 2017, it hovers around, say, 0. And it hasn't really moved from there because it's basically, yes, pending home sales have increased, revise the numbers, these contracts have been canceled, it drops to a negative number. Yes, pending home sales increased, and then again, it goes to a negative number. And this continually went on since late 2015. So this is a poor reading to show us what's really going on. And when you really look at it, nothing has been happening. It's flatline right now. Now, there's a lot of talk about Obamacare and how this is going to explode. Now, we see the whole thing deteriorating very, very quickly. Now, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution pointed out that the Trump administration has until May 22nd to decide whether they will continue to pursue the the Obama administration's appeal to provide subsidies to insurers who participate in the federal exchanges. Of course, any decision to remove those subsidies would likely result in yet another massive round of premium hikes and further withdrawals from the already crippled health insurance program known as the Affordable Care Act. And we can see that this whole entire healthcare system can implode on itself very easily. Without these individuals getting the subsidies, the whole thing is a complete disaster. And it wouldn't survive this collapse. Obamacare would be doomed. Now, Trump might be pushing for this, and he might be trying to say, okay, let's just get rid of it this way. It's a possibility. Now, something very interesting about Obamacare, we know there's a penalty, there's a tax on those individuals who decide, you know something, I just can't afford this. I cannot afford $1,500, $1,800, $2,200 a month, and then pay for a deductible. I just don't make enough money to do that. So we can see from 2016, 6.5 million taxpayers paid $3 billion in Obamacare penalties for not having health insurance. Now, if you notice, the news never talks about this, that there are 6.5 million who can't, or it's impossible for them to get health insurance. And people say, well, they're paying the penalties. Well, the penalties range anywhere from $300 to $800, depending on your income and things like that, compared to 15 or even 1,000, let's say even 800 every single month. So you can see why they chose the penalties, because it's just not affordable, even though it's called the Affordable Care Act. But the news never mentions, oh wait, we have about 6.4 million people who don't have health insurance. They only talk about that 20 million number. And we broke that number down again to show you that it's not really 20 million people that Obama helped. It's really much, much lower than that, because some people already had health insurance, people already had Medicaid, and of course you had those people who came on because the government pays for their health insurance through subsidies. So when you look at the numbers, it's not exactly what they're saying. Now, Deutsche Bank is putting odds on if the government is going to shut down because of the debt ceiling. And Deutsche Bank's Washington expert Frank Kelly estimates the probability of government shutdown at roughly 40%, and notes that the next 2 weeks will be critical to watch. And we can see already that things are getting closer, and around April 28th or so, this is when we're going to hit about $20 trillion. Now, the Fed presidents, they're saying that the markets are warm and they're getting frothy. This is why I put the title Operation Frothy, and saying that because of this, markets might come down. And they're saying that they're going to have to increase the Fed rate multiple times during this year. And I just want to go back a little bit in time to show you what the Fed does. Remember back in 2006, that was Ben Bernanke when he was a Fed chair. During that time period going through to 2007, they were raising the interest rates during this period of time to cool the housing market. So they raised the rates in January to 4.5%. This is in 2006. Then they did it in March, May, and June, all the way up to 5.25%. Come 2007, well, they kept the rates at 5.25%. And then they realized that home sales started to fall and things were getting a little shaky. And they realized at this point that things weren't going as well. Now, was this planned? Most likely. They knew the system had to come down. Remember, they just don't drop it automatically, and they don't want you to know they're the ones who are doing it. So come September 18th of 2007, they started to lower the rate. 4.75, 4.5. In December of 2007, 4.25, and they kept going. January, but it was too late already. They already started a chain reaction during this period. So January of 2008, they lowered to 3.5, and then January 30th of the same month, they lowered it to 3. Then March, 2.25, April, 2%. So they kept lowering it, trying to stop what was coming. Here we are in 2017. They raised it in 2016. They raised it in 2017. They're going to be raising it again, and they want to do it like another 3 times, which shows you they're preparing to bring the system down. Because when they started this, they noticed back in 2007, around September or so, when they started to lower the rate, that things were rapidly falling apart. And of course, when we hit 2008 in March, well, they started bringing it down quite fast because Bear Stearns was failing, Lehman was failing, a lot of things were going on at the point in time. But of course, nobody let you know about this. And we can see right now, here they are telling us the market is too frothy. They're telling us they have to raise the rates, and we can see what's going to happen. It's going to start a chain reaction. Remember, they're raising it this time into a very weak economy. Actually, the economy is one gigantic illusion. And as they raise the rates, of course, what's going to happen is they're going to say, okay, things are rapidly falling apart. We're going to see house sales slow again, because that's going to slow just like it did back in 2007. Sales are going to come to a screeching halt. Prices are going to start to fall. A lot of people are going to be out of the market. They won't be able to afford homes. The market's going to start to fluctuate quite a bit. It's going to start coming down quite a bit. And all of a sudden, when they hit that point in time and the chain reaction is going, they're going to start decreasing the interest rates, just like they did back in 2007 going into 2008. And we're going to see the process has started already, because they already started the process, because they know what will trigger the market to come down. They know what will trigger the housing market to come down. We're following the same exact path. So you know what you need to do? You need to get prepared, because they're already signaling, they're already telling you what they're doing right now. And back then, if you want to go back in time to 2006, well, they had to raise the interest rates to cool the housing market. That's what they said back then. Now they're raising the interest rates to calm the markets down. And of course, by the time they're finished, everyone will forget what they've done, and all they will see is the entire economy falling apart. Now, of course, they're going to lay blame probably to Trump, most likely maybe to someone else or another group or country, but the blame will always be shifted away from them. So we're already in that process. The economy is already set to come down. They've already made the decision, and they're not going back on it. So get prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.